Welcome, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day here for the St. Patrick's Day edition of Chiefs Digest Live. Welcome, everyone, to the show tonight. I don't know about you. I will be keeping tabs on the World Baseball Classic because I do want to see which one of the Royals walks away with the championship in this one. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this might be a hot take, but as a Royals fan and a Salvador Perez fan, I'm rooting for Venezuela in this one. I want Salvi to have that one on his resume. I personally think he's already a Hall of Famer. I think he's got at least a couple of more seasons to pad the resume a little bit. He's gonna pass a lot of plateaus. If he's healthy this year, he's gonna hit a lot of plateaus that will, I think, make him a shoe-in Hall of Famer. But hey, being captain of the first Venezuelan team to win the World Baseball Classic would be kind of a pretty big deal for, I think, the Baseball Hall of Fame too. So I'm rooting for Salvi for that alone, and that's about the only thing left that the guy hasn't done in his baseball career. So I'm always going to root for Salvi. He's one of my favorite players of all time. So Bobby's got plenty of chances to get another one, but with some of the other teammates and Mikhail Garcia, I think that would be a lot of fun too. So I'm rooting for Salvi and Venezuela to win tonight. I think that would be awesome. But we'll talk about Chiefs here. We'll keep tabs. Anybody wants to let me know what's going on in the game, I'll try and have it in a little window off to the side. I'm not going to have the TV on because it flickers and you'll see it on my screen and it messes up the lighting. So we'll try and keep things professional here, and as we're keeping tabs with the game. Imagine there'll probably be some questions about Justin Fields coming to the Chiefs and that trade. I'm really intrigued about it. I think it's a very interesting move. I approve of the trade compared to what the Chiefs could have gotten in free agencies for a backup quarterback behind Mahomes. I don't think that the menu of free agent quarterbacks was very appetizing, so I think that the Brett Veach made a wise decision in this one. We'll see if Justin Fields can respond to the coaching and come together, but I think it's a good decision. I know there's a couple questions about it, so we'll deal with that tonight. As always, fire away with anything you got. Can be football related. You can ask me anything. I will answer almost anything. Feel free to fire away. We'll have a good old time tonight. Hooray, hooray! It is Q&A day, and we'll see how baseball, basketball. There's a lot going on tonight, so I appreciate everybody taking their time out and joining us here. There's a lot going on, and it is a little crisp out there. So I guess there's the one thing we can have going for us is that there's not really anything to do outside tonight. We can just all stay home and talk football and watch some basketball and some baseball. Luttrell with the first question. Do you have a favorite off-season move? Doesn't have to be KC related. Interesting. I haven't really thought, and you know what? I'm so Chiefs focused on, as I usually say, I'm always so Chiefs focused on everything that even during free agency, I'm not always paying attention to what some other teams did. If anything, it's like I look at maybe some of the moves that teams made with Chiefs players that they picked up. I mean, I think Leo's going to be a really good addition for the Commanders. If they use him the right way, I think he could end up. My hot take is that I think that Leo could have an 8 to 10 sack season for the right team. If the Commanders are the right team, we'll find out. But I think he could be a real weapon for a team that uses him and I know that Washington's running a 4-3 right now, so maybe they'll go ahead and keep him on the field. I thought the best fit for him would be a 3-4, but if they're willing to keep him on the field all 4 downs, especially on third downs, that's going to be a key for Leo. I think that'd be a great move to see. So I'd be really intrigued there. Obviously, I like the Chiefs moves. I like Kenneth Walker. Alohi Gilman might be my favorite addition. I think that's a player that the Chiefs just really need. I say that even though, I mean, Kenneth Walker might make, if the Chiefs are a playoff team, back to being a playoff team this year, they win the AFC West this year. Even if Mahomes is MVP and plays the whole season and plays that well, I'm still going to say that I think that Kenneth Walker is probably the single most important piece of this team. Just being able to revamp that running back room. The Chiefs are telling you what they think about Kenneth Walker because they're probably going to go into this game with, and go into week one rather, with arguably 9 starters back from last year. I mean, really, the only starters that's going to be different is you're not going to have Hollywood Brown, and you're not going to have any, Isaiah Pacheco. You're going to replace that with someone else. I mean, Rasheed Rice will be playing obviously at the beginning of the season, assuming nothing happens, and he didn't last year. But I'm just talking about from, hey, guys who started last year, were key players. I mean, I'm including Jalen Moore in that because he was a part of this team last year. He started games for this team last year. No change over there, really. Um, but the two brand new guys, there might be. I mean, the starter wide receiver might be Tyquan Thornton and Rice and Worthy, and therefore it's kind of everybody back from last year. The one position we know is going to be a guy that was not on this team last year is Kenneth Walker. And if the Chiefs feel like that guy alone is enough to change the offense, I mean, I think that's going to signal his importance. I'm just looking through some of the big signings, not getting into the little ones as much. I mean, and that's the crazy thing is that you probably have to get into the affordable signings, the underrated signings that, really pay off. I mean, Mike Evans might really pay off. I'm just worried that at his age, that at any point he could just start not being Mike Evans anymore, and maybe being away from Tampa will do it. But there's some big, deals that I just don't think are going to end well. I don't, that's a lot to pay Jalen Phillips. I mean, he's got the richest contract of anybody, and I just don't think that's going to end up well. Alec Pierce is probably overpaid. There's some other guys that are probably a little overpaid. The Bengals might have overpaid Brian Cook a little, but I still like Brian Cook, so I'm not going to argue against that. I'm just looking through, trying to see if there's a deal and an amount that I'm like, gosh, I mean, and oddly enough, the first one I get to that I'm like, okay, that's a good deal is Leo Chanel, and then Alohi Gilman right after that. So maybe I'm telling on myself a little bit here that maybe those are my two favorite signings. Um, I mean, hey, it happens every year in free agency. You're going to overpay. I mean, hey, the Chiefs overpaid for Kenneth Walker. That's what you have to do. If you want to improve, let's put it this way: no team wants to improve themselves via free agency. They have to, and if you have to improve yourself through free agency, you're going to overpay. So, I mean, it's that's to me like the best moves and the favorite moves that teams are going to make are going to be ones that are like below the line that just don't jump out to you, but because they are such good affordable moves that teams like Drew Tranquil, I think, for the Chiefs a few years ago when they brought him in, I think that was an incredible free agent signing and a great move. So those are the ones that I think are the ones that really stand off. Even, hey, Kenneth Walker might be the difference maker for this team. Very well may be. But there's going to be a team that picked up somebody for not very much money that's going to give them a ton of production. Um, you know what? Kyrie's Tonga was that way a little bit for the Patriots last year. What they pay him 2.1 million, and he was a key part of a Super Bowl team on defense. Uh, might be a key part of the Chiefs defense if they go back to a Super Bowl, but he's not making 2.1 million this year. Good question, Letch. I'll appreciate that. Daniel, about the Fields move. Do you think he's being brought in mainly for gadget type plays, or is this more about Mahomes possibly not being ready for the season, not being as mobile early on? I think it's both, Daniel. I really do. I mean, the Chiefs have to be prepared for the possibility that something could go wrong. I mean, they've still got almost 6 months to go until week one. And a lot of things can happen between now and then. You can tweak a knee, you can twist it, you can just feel uncomfortable. Something can happen in workouts. I mean, any number of things can happen. So you always have to be ready to play your backup quarterback. But the Chiefs this year, yeah, it's more important this year. I do think you make a good point, which is that Justin Fields could be a really nice addition for some gadget type plays to put him in. Even if you wanted to put him on the field for fourth downs, I mean, it could be a good addition. Maybe some third down packages too. I think there's a lot of ways that they could use Justin Fields, and it wouldn't, to me, necessarily just be about taking over the offense from Mahomes. I do think that they brought in Justin Fields because they do feel like that they could do something different. They could tailor the offense a little bit to him and take advantage of his skill set. And the last couple of years in limited play with, well, one in the Steelers, I mean, a playoff team. You give the Steelers credit for being a playoff team, and one bad team in the Jets. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't good, but hey, he went what 4-2 with the Steelers. His interception ratio, the touchdown to interception ratio, the last couple of years has been good. He's always completed, 60+% of his passes. I mean, would you like it to be higher? Sure. But there's a lot of things to like about Justin Fields. And remember, what has he played? He's played in the NFL 5 seasons. He's run 4 different schemes. He's only had one consistent, coordinator year to year, was year 2 and year 3, with Matt Eberflus as head coach. And I'm trying to remember. Getsy, was it Getsy? Tim Getsy, I think, that was the offensive coordinator in Chicago. When he's not an offensive coordinator these days, he's back as, I think, as an assistant with the Packers. He hasn't had the most stability, and if the Chiefs can get something out of him, we're gonna see if Andy Reid, rather, if Andy Reid still has the ability to develop and salvage young quarterbacks. And if he can do that with Justin Fields, then the Chiefs have exactly what you're talking about, Daniel. They have a guy that, if, hey, you had to play without Mahomes at the beginning of the season, if you got a guy that you want to take some of the just burden off of Mahomes, you want to put in some quarterback run type plays and gadget plays. If you wanted to just put him in for some quarterback sneaks, run the tush push with Justin Fields, you can do that. So, yeah, I think it's about both, Daniel. I really do. And I see your second question: with all these running back moves or running quarterback moves, could this signal a shift toward a more run heavy approach? I will always say, don't bet on a run heavy approach from Andy Reid. Andy Reid's going to throw the football. What you're hoping for is that they run the ball more effectively. That's what they've got to do going forward. So they're not going to run the ball anymore. I can't see that. I can't see Andy Reid making a dramatic shift. But hey, are they going to throw the ball to Kenneth Walker more than Seattle did? Probably. Use him in different ways out of the backfield. Yeah. Do I expect Mahomes to run as much this year? No, I don't. I mean, I think he's gonna, have to check himself back a little bit. And if you're gonna do any designed runs, yeah, I mean, I could see the Chiefs just deciding that maybe Justin Fields is their guy for a handful of snaps a game to at least have the threat of a mobile quarterback and do some things. And I still think they'll run a little bit of RPO. I mean, I feel like they have to rein that in a little bit because teams have really keyed in on it. But uh, I don't see that Andy Reid all of a sudden going run heavy, run crazy. He's going to run about the same amount as he always does, probably, which, about 40% or less. Alan, good day, Matt and Chiefs Kingdom. Chiefs Dynasty 2.0 is taking shape. As much as it hurts to lose so many quality starters in one off season, you're very proud of the 2022 draft class. I guess comment, but I was just going in order there. Alan, appreciate the kind words, and yep, it's always hard to see fun players and good players and guys that you root for move on, but it's the business. Scott, thoughts how the Chiefs structured Kelce's contract by adding fake dummy years to divide the cap over multiple seasons? Yeah, not something that the Chiefs normally do, obviously, and it also definitely plays into the expectation that this is probably going to be Travis's last year. This is not the way you necessarily structure a contract if you're expecting there to be additional years. And they have those 2 void years on the back end of it, and and specifically about those 2 years, there's a specific poison pill in it, as far as a $40 million salary that guarantee that kicks in for 2028, next June. Now, what it allows the Chiefs to do is, with those 2 void years, they can release Travis after the season as a post June 1 designation, and then have that cap hit with about $3.5 million each hit in 27 and 28. Normally, if this were a 2-year contract, you'd have to split the signing bonus. You have to, and that restructure proration of what they call it. It's like SPO-track. You'd spread that over 2 years. Well, the Chiefs wanted to spread it over 3, so they get the void years in there, and then unless you make it a post June 1 designation, it would all hit in 27. So the Chiefs set it up so they can make. I mean, they're cutting him or throwing out this contract and doing a brand new one next offseason. But this is the deal that you do when the player has said, yeah, this is going to be my last rodeo. I mean, because that money's there. I mean, the Chiefs have got a $3.5 million hit for Travis Kelce next year. They got a $3.5 million cap hit for him in 2028. If you bring him back, I mean, you can, but it's going to be above and beyond. I mean, that cap hit is for his 2026 season. So if you've got any more cap hit coming, it's going to have to be, done on top of this. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he's definitely not coming back, but it sure feels like the way this contract is structured that it looks that way. And I wouldn't blame Travis. I mean, I think he wants to give it one more go. I'm not entirely sure I buy that he made a decision at midseason, unless unless midseason is maybe defined as week 13 or 14. Then we could probably talk about, hey, maybe he did decide at midseason. But I figure that, like a lot of stories, this one will evolve over the years. So we'll see. But that's my first thought, Scott, is that I think with those void years and the way that they're set in there, that it certainly feels like that this is Travis is intending it to be his last season, and the Chiefs just chose to spread his cap hit over the way that it did rather than taking it all this year, because they still got some work to do. They still have some things that they want to get done. So, Alex, are the Chiefs going to get a vet D end like Cam Jordan? I mean, there's always a possibility they could get Cam Jordan. I don't think so. I mean, talking to some people, it seems like that it goes both ways. Some people think that, yes, that there's some genuine interest there from both sides. Others I've talked to have said, no, there's no way that Cam Jordan's coming to KC. Getting somebody else, I mean, there's not a lot of guys like Cam Jordan out there. I think the Chiefs would love to get a veteran D end at the right price, but again, it's the right price, and that's tough for edge players because they make a lot of money. Let's see who's some guys that are available right now. I mean, Joey Bosa's still out there. I don't think I'd be interested in that from just the age and price standpoint. You probably, I mean, and then most of the big names are gone. And so if you start looking at like SPO-Track's average annual value, market value estimate, then hey, AJ Epinesa at 6.5 million, possibly. He's only going to be 28 this year, so that could possibly work. I don't know if I want the age and the drama problems of Von Miller and Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, the Chiefs, once again, I mean, they would like to be a little bit on the younger side. I mean, Dante Fowler is going to be 32. He's been in the league 11 years. Dang, still a little pricey. Hassan Reddick's not really built for them. And then all of a sudden you're down to Mike Dana. So, I mean, there's only really, I think, maybe a handful of guys that you would really think of being really good fits for the Chiefs. There might be some younger guys that maybe you take a chance on that wouldn't be big names. They wouldn't be, there maybe be some guys who are off their first year of their rookie contract, although there's not a ton of those guys. Maybe some guys that are, year 5 players that you could look at, but I'm not enamored with anybody. So the other possibility would be a trade. And I think that's where, if you're Brett Veach, I think you'd like to look around and see if there isn't somebody you could trade for that would fit into that. I mean, Chiefs, as I've been telling you, are going to have 4 to 5 new faces on that defensive line. They've signed one new face to the defensive line thus far. So there's more work to be done there. I mean, and I'm not entirely convinced that they're not going to take a couple of shots at that during the draft. So, they got 3 or 4 new players to bring in, and I think they would love to get at least one more free agent. I think they would like to hit edge and tackle in the draft. And I mean, I'm, I could, there's definitely a lot of time to change your minds, and you'll hear more information and more people will talk or not talk as the case may be. But the interest that the Chiefs have in Ruben Bain seems legit. So if he's available at 9, I would expect that the Chiefs, that's the guy, that's where they want to go. I'd be really surprised if they went elsewhere if Bain was available at 9. Is he going to be available at 9? That's going to be a tough one. Scott, if you were Veach and Miami offered you the same deal for Jalen Waddle, would you have pulled the trigger first this year, third and fourth next, plus a new contract? I would not. I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today. Waddle is going to be his 28-year-old season, and he's been a good player. I mean, and he was a first-round pick. He's been productive, but he hasn't been as productive the last 2 years. I mean, there's been not a and he bounced back obviously in 25 a little bit, but he's been dinged up here and there the last couple of seasons. And I get the quarterback situation in Miami is completely and totally in flux, but I'm always going to be very hesitant about giving up a first round pick. And then plus, I mean, maybe there might be the right player that I would give up a first round pick and then sign them to a big contract. But I'm doing that if you're the best player at your position in the league. Is Jalen Waddle the best receiver in the league? I don't think so. And with what they gave up, I think that was a lot for the Broncos to give up. To give up those 3 picks, the first rounder, I think that's a lot for a player that has had 2 years that are subpar. I mean, 744, 910 yards, those are good numbers. They're not great, and they're not what you expect from Jalen Waddle. And like I said, I know the situation's been rough and everything, but I think it's dangerous. I wouldn't do it because I just don't think that Jalen Waddle is anywhere close to being the best wide receiver in the league. I'm not even sure if he's top 10. And honestly, the guy that he has been the last 2 years, Rasheed Rice has a season like that. Xavier Worthy has a season like that. I mean, I get it. I mean, if you like Jalen Waddle, maybe he's going to prove me wrong. Maybe he's going to go to Denver and put up 1,200 yards. But I still think that the bigger problem in Denver is the quarterback. I mean, Bo Nix, I think, is a good game manager, but I think that's all he is. And I'm just not sure that. I think you've tapped out about all you can out of Bo Nix, and I don't know if bringing in Jalen Waddle I don't know if that's going to change things. I don't think it's going to make that offense a whole lot better. So I think he gave up a lot for maybe not a whole lot of improvement. So I don't know. That's to each his own. And I've been wrong before. Other people have been right. So maybe that's going to end up being a good deal. I just realized, just now that I get to it, that I completely missed Dog Petter's super chat. Any news on Christian Wilkins? Seems odd. I tell you what, I mean, Christian Wilkins, for all intents and purposes, appears to have just dropped off the face of the planet. I mean, there has been, to my knowledge, just like zero talk this offseason about Wilkins and everything. And I mean, and remember, I mean, the talk last year and everything was, that, hey, after he healed up his foot, maybe he was going to be available at mid-season, and didn't happen. I don't know. I mean, I know that there were a lot of teams concerned about that foot and the injury. And remember, the Chiefs had Antonio Pierce at training camp last year, and he worked with Christian Wilkins, and let's just say he was discussed. The Chiefs definitely talked to Antonio Pierce about Christian Wilkins, and I don't know what was said. But I think that if the reviews of Antonio Pierce were more positive, then I think you might have at least seen Christian Wilkins in for a visit. But right now, NFL's just acting like he is radioactive, and maybe it is because of the incident and the allegations in Las Vegas and what happened and maybe didn't happen. Who knows? A lot of people are uncomfortable with it, but uh, the injury is a big part of it too. So which one's more important? Is it both? Is the foot really that jacked up? It could be. I mean, that was kind of the talk for a lot of the season last year. But again, he's been a really good player. So, NFL, I mean, it's at some point you always consider everything. So I'm surprised that somebody hasn't had him in to take a look at and everything. But right now, I mean, it seems like he's just off every team's radar, and I have not heard him from the Chiefs mentioned whatsoever. So. Daniel, between the 9th, 29th, and 40th pick, where do you see the Chiefs addressing pass rusher, cornerback, and wide receiver? Really good question, and and let's set aside any trade aspects, because I could see the Chiefs, if the player that they want and really want at 9 is not available, I could see them trading back and trying to get some more draft capital for both this year and the future. Falling back from 9 to 14 would probably still give you a chance to get a guy that you've graded as a first round player. But it just, maybe it's not the guy that you really dreamed of. And that's the case, like, okay, Ruben Bain goes 6th, let's say. Where do you go? I mean, I think the Chiefs are probably a little bit of no man's land there, because it seems like after Bain and Bailey, and I don't think that Bailey is a good fit for the Chiefs at all. I mean, he's going to be a really good 3-4 pass rusher for somebody. Maybe he's going to be a good 4-3 pass rusher for somebody, but he's just not the type that Spags works with at all. I mean, we know Spags likes long and lean and edge rushers, and that's not what even Ruben Bain is, because he doesn't have long arms. So that's the knock. He's got everything else. So size, other than that, I mean, it just doesn't have the long arms. Bailey's just small, and there's a lot of small pass rushers that are successful in this league. It's just that most of them are 3-4 guys. Very few of them are 4-3 guys. And none of them have you generally played for Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, he just favors a bigger end. So I'm assuming at the top at 9, it's Ruben Bain or bust. But I do think that's the one place where the Chiefs would like to address it. So let's just wave the magic wand and say they're able to get Ruben Bain at 9, because I think that would be their dream scenario. 29, if they don't move at 9, at least move up, which is always a possibility. But if they even moved back, picked up some more draft capital, I think even with the 8 picks that they have, if you're at 29, you can still move up a few spots if you start falling. And here's the thing. I could see the Chiefs moving up from 29 for either a cornerback or a tackle. Receiver wouldn't be the first thing on the list, but I could see them, if there's going to be some decent tackles, I think, in the late part of the first round. And if a guy that the Chiefs think could be their right tackle of the future is there, I think they could go get that guy. So that's the only position I would add to the mix. But corner at 29, I think, would make a lot of sense, because I think there's going to be some, at both tackle and corner, there's going to be some depth there. So I think they could go to both spots. Receiver at 40 would make a lot of sense. There's some other positions too. I think you could probably bring on almost any position at 40. At that point, positional value is not as big of a deal. So you could go a lot of different directions. But that would be my initial thought right now, is that I think you'd like to address edge rusher at 9, probably corner at 29, and receiver at 40. But again, it just depends on how the draft falls, Daniel. I mean, it depends on what other teams do and who's available where, and what do you think of the class. And we know every GM is going to think differently of the draft class than any of us draft prognosticators. So you never know what's going to unfold. Alex, do you think a Hill reunion is a very real possibility? I will probably say no on the words very real. Is it a possibility? Sure. Chiefs, we know, love their reunions. That one's one that I don't know. I mean, and part of it's because, Tyreek's not going to be, by all accounts, healthy until at least September. And even once he's back, he might not be Tyreek Hill again. I mean, that was a bad injury. It's going to require a couple of surgeries. There's nothing good about that, and especially at his age, which I think he's 32 this season. There's there's a lot of things going against Tyreek at this point. And yeah, I understand you could probably get him for a fairly affordable contract. I'm just not sure that one, he's going to have the skill set that you need anymore, and he's probably not going to have that speed. He's probably not going to have the moves that he had once before. It's he's going to be a different guy, and I don't know if that would work in Kansas City this time around. I mean, I keep saying that the Chiefs do need a technician. They need somebody who's going to be on the same page of the quarterback, somebody who can run their routes precisely, who knows how to find open space, and Tyreek is all of those things. And so in some ways he is what the Chiefs need, but you factor in the history, the past, the noise, everything that's happened, and this is the one that I do think that the Chiefs would probably say they like Tyreek, did a lot of things was good with Tyreek, but I think they're ready to have that chapter closed. Not saying it can't happen, but I know that there are more than a few people in that building that probably slept better after the Tyreek Hill trade than they did before the trade. Not saying Brett Veach is one of them necessarily, but there's definitely some people in that building who that was a weight off their shoulders. So I'm going to hedge on the very real. Is it possible? Sure. Very real possibility. I don't think it's very real. Chris, is Justin Fields salvageable at this stage? I think he is, Chris. I really do. He is, I think, gosh, I was going to say, I think, was this his 25 season that he just had? Had him pulled up here a second ago. Let me go back there. And yeah, well, he's going to be 27 this season. And his numbers weren't terrible. I mean, the last two seasons, he had 12 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. Before that, he had started to make progress each of his first 3 seasons and moved around. I'm still trying to figure out how he finished 9th in the MVP voting in 2022 for a team that went 3-12. But, that's the thing. I mean, his numbers haven't all been bad. The film is probably worse than the numbers, but his completion rate, he had 65.8% that one year in Pittsburgh. His QBR hasn't been great. His passer rating has been below average for this era. Yeah. But again, some really horrid offensive coaching and quarterback coaching that he's been a part of. He's been a part of some really bad teams. I mean, played for one decent team, one playoff team in that stretch, and he went 4-2 as a starter with that team. That's a decent number. So I think he is salvageable, and especially if all the Chiefs are looking for is a guy that can Matt Moore it or Chad Henne it up and just start on 1 or 2 games a season, and they're seeing him as that athletic guy who can come in and maybe just give him a change of pace for a handful of snaps a game. I think they're also looking at him as a change of pace quarterback that could play a couple of games if needed. I mean, if you're going into week 1 of this season and Patrick's not ready and you're starting Justin Fields, if you're an NFL defensive coordinator lining up to see the Chiefs, I don't know what you're doing to prepare for this team. I think you might go back and watch some Alex Smith tape, because I think that's closer to what you would see than what you get with Mahomes. I don't think he's going to go out there and the Chiefs have him do a Patrick Mahomes impersonation, but I also don't think that the Chiefs would put him out there with a Gardner Minshew or a Chris Oladokun game plan. I think they would have him do something more tailored to him and his skill set. And there's a skill set there. So I think he's salvageable. We'll find out. I mean, if Andy Reid can still salvage quarterbacks and he can still find that nugget and shine it up and everything and turn it into found money. We'll find out if Andy's still got that club in his bag this year. You're also asking, does Snead have anything left to give? I wish he did. I really do, because Legarius is a good dude. Enjoyed covering him. He was always truthful. I mean, he was a really quiet guy, but you always felt like he was being straight with you, better or for worse. He was straightforward. I thought there was a lot of good things to like about Legarius, and obviously he's been through some incredibly difficult situations in his life, and to be where he's at, it's an incredible story. But that knee is, I think he even talked about it when he was in Tennessee, that, that knee is in maintenance mode. I mean, that's what they're doing, is that they're just trying to keep that knee together. There's been a lot of trauma in that knee, a lot of issues. I and our dear friend of the program, my partner on 41 is the Mike, Nick Jacobs. He said, "Hey, that was not the right scheme, that he was going to in Tennessee," and that's a legitimate point. Would coming back to Dave Merritt and Steve Spagnuolo get something out of him? Maybe, but I don't think he's a full-time corner anymore. And I think you'd have to understand that he's gonna have some games that he's probably gonna miss every year because of that knee. So I don't think he's somebody you can count on as far as being your number one or number two corner. Could you count on him as being your fourth corner, as a rotational piece? Maybe. But I do worry that there's just not enough left in that knee to keep him up, because he had a rough couple of seasons in Tennessee. When he played, which wasn't often, he was not very good. So I wish I had a different answer, but I don't think he's got a lot left in the tank. Davis, Kenneth, thank you very much. Appreciate you reminding everyone to hit the like button, hit the sub button. Sometimes I've learned that you even have to, if you are subscribed, you have to unsubscribe and resubscribe back for the YouTube algorithm to treat you well. So feel free to do whatever you need to. Just make sure you like the video and make sure you're subscribed, and that's all I can ever ask of you. So thank you for reminding everyone. I appreciate that. Alex, if the Chiefs had a choice of Tate or Bain, who do you think the Chiefs are more likely to take? If they were both available at 9, I don't think that Brett Veach could get the card delivered up there fast enough with Ruben Bain's name written on it. So, yeah, I think that would be the case. I mean, I don't think there's anybody on this draft that the Chiefs would take at 9 over Ruben Bain. That's the sense I get. It seems like there's a lot of love there. Chris, why are you a traitor, Matt? No love for Team USA. No bueno. When you called me a traitor, I was initially thinking about the Traitors on NBC Peacock, which is like my favorite reality show of all time. So that, and I guess Top Chef. So I actually, when you say, why are you a traitor? I would have loved to have been a traitor on the Traitors. That would be awesome. I always root for Team USA. This is a rare occurrence where I think my love of Salvi, and Nikki understands Salvi's one of her mom's faves too. Salvador is literally the only. I'm not much of a jersey guy, although I was looking around because I do have a Ziggy Hood jersey when he was drafted by the Steelers, because of course Mizzou, connection there. But I used to have Missouri season tickets, and I would wear the Ziggy Hood jersey because black and gold. So Steelers jersey looks just like a Mizzou jersey. So that's like one of the only, and that's well, it may be a knockoff, but it looks real enough to be, a real jersey. So, but that's one of the rare ones that I've ever had. Probably the only 2 jerseys of any sort that I've bought in the last quarter of a century. It's Ziggy Hood and Salvador Perez. Salvi's just one of my favorites. I mean, up there with George Brett. Salvi's probably my second favorite Royal of all time. So I'm going to root for Salvi here. I know I'm a terrible person, but hey, I rooted for us on all of our hockey games, so I got that going for me. Ethan, I hear you say the new safety's name different than the other commentators. So is it Alohi or Alohi Gilman? Glad you bring that up because I probably say it differently every time I say it because I think I originally was hearing it as Alohi, and I think it's Alohi. Um, let's see if I've got a good pronouncer here. I think it's Alohi. But then you just, find out over the years that, well, in here it says it's a low he in the official pronunciation. So I guess we don't know um, how to pronounce this. Kind of like we all still call Mike Dana or Mike Dana. I forget. I honestly forget which one it is. I've always forgotten. That's one I've just no. I always think I've got it down pat, and then I just totally forget about which one it is. There's still, of course, the debate about whether it's Kels or Kelsey. Um, I, this was a real hardcore win. I don't know if we ever really figured out how to spell Isaiah Pacheco's first name because he spelled it differently when he was at Rutgers and when he was coming out for the draft. And I heard him explain it once, and I was even more confused afterwards. So apparently we're going with a low he. Let's see somebody else. See if there's another source out there we can go with that can either confirm or deny. And yeah, I mean, multiple ones say his pronunciation at the Notre Dame says a low he too. So that's the funny thing. I swear that I was calling him a low he, and then people were telling me no, it's a low high, and I was trying to say that. So apparently it's a low he, Ethan. So now, of course, I will do the reporter thing and actually ask him how does he pronounce his name. So we'll get a real answer here, but I'm gonna go with a low he. Now looks like Nikki's it's a go with a low he too. Well, let's go with a low he. We're gonna go with that for now until proven otherwise, Ethan. Appreciate you catching that though. I'm glad you brought it up that I've been indifferent on the name going back and forth because I would like to be accurate and consistent. Nikki, how bad do you feel for Malik Willis now that Miami traded Waddle? Maybe he thought it was going to happen. Hopefully they gave him a heads up that it might happen, but not great. I mean, I guess I feel a little bit okay for Malik Willis because dude got paid for not really doing much of anything in the league. I mean, he basically got paid a lot because he's the only backup in the league that's relatively young and looked decent in the most recent preseason. So, I mean, he's banking a lot on upside because Malik as a starter for the most part has not been long term that impressive. I know he's better than he was when he made his first start here in Kansas City. That was, I think, a rough one, but yeah, I feel sorry for him. But you know what, Nikki, dude got paid, so he's gonna be okay. Finally tuned. Will the Chiefs draft a tight end? It's a great question because I think they should. I mean, I think until they replace Travis Kelce, they should be consistently looking for tight ends. And a lot of talk at 29. I mean, that could be in the conversation at 29 about a tight end, because that is probably where the guy whose name I can't remember right now, but top tight end of the draft. Somebody's going to be able to tell me in the comments and remind me. I'm completely blanking on the dude's name right now. I'm terrible with names generally, so the draft is like my worst time of year. Completely blanking on that guy's name, but he's probably going to go in, maybe in the 20s or so. So I could see that being a place, or at 29, throw tight end in there as one of those positions with corner and wide receiver and tackle that the Chiefs could be going for. After that, now I know Daniel Jeremiah, who I think is, or I'm actually, you know what? I guess it was. I don't think it was Daniel Jeremiah. It was Dane Brugler. I saw a post today talking about how this is he thinks this is a really deep draft for tight ends, and he thinks there's a lot of talent all the way to the end of the draft. So I mean, they once again they could now. They drafted a tight end 2 years ago in Jared Wiley. They signed what was arguably considered to be maybe the best undrafted tight end last year in Jake Brainingstool. So they've got a couple of young guys that they like, that they want to give a whole long hard look at this year. Wiley, I thought, looked good in those few moments that he played last year. Brainingstool looked really good during training camp. Now, he was obviously on injured reserve most of the season, so we didn't get to see him at practice or anything like that much. Didn't get any games action, so don't really know a lot about him still. I mean, they've got to learn some things this offseason in OTAs and training camp, but they've got some tight ends that they like. So I'll be interested to see what happens there, because I think that's a position that they could roll with what they have just to see what they have. Adding another player into the mix and, going in with five tight ends, I would assume at that point that they probably wouldn't have Bob Tunyon back, but, you'd have Gray, you'd have Kelce, you have, maybe Brainingstool, Wiley in there, and then you add a fifth one to the mix. I mean, unless there's a guy that you really, really feel good about. I mean, I think and I'm not expecting Kelce to be, I mean, he'll probably surprise me and show up for more OTAs than I expect. But I'd be honest, I'd be surprised if Kelce took part in any part of the offseason program. I mean, he doesn't need to, and the Chiefs have some things to figure out, and Mahomes isn't going to be there. So, hey, it would be great for Travis to be there. And yes, Sadiq, thank you. Kenyon Sadiq, thank you very much. I knew you all would bail me out there. Um, if you drafted a guy like that, I mean, it would be great to have Travis around to teach him the ropes and everything, and be there for the younger other young guys too. It's a lot of things to sort out with the tight end room. I mean, I think you'd absolutely, at that point, be squeezing one of those guys out before you even got to training camp, just because there's not enough reps to go around to really figure out what guys got and develop them and see what they have. So yeah, I could see the Chiefs whiffing and not going on tight end this year. Now that said, I mean, they also could take the first one off the board if that's who they like, and Kenya Sadiq's available in the late 20s. I mean, I can see them going that direction. Robert, this is a popular question. Any word on DNs to be signed by KC, aka Cam Jordan? I mean, even Cam is an enigma at this point. I'm not sure if there's any legitimate interest in either side with Cam. Maybe it's legit, maybe it's not. I've heard both ways. I'd assume we'd find out pretty, sooner than later. I mean, Cam's been around long enough, so he doesn't have to be the first guy to sign or anything. I mean, he can sit back and take the veteran prerogative of maybe not signing until he has to. So I mean, does he really want to be going to OTAs and everything, and going to mandatory minicamp so he doesn't get fined $180,000? No. So I could see him waiting to see whether he. I've also been told that he wants to stay with the Saints, and that he wants to see if that works. And if it doesn't work for the Saints, then maybe he's just going to retire. I don't know, but you hear a lot of different things out there. So, um, I mean, I think Cam Jordan's one of the last dudes out there right now that I think you'd say would make a lot of sense for the Chiefs and be a good guy to have in. After that, I think it gets kind of slim. So that's the guy that I think you'd love to get, but I just don't know if the Chiefs are going to be able to get him. Jason, why the heck is everyone in this town so confident the Chiefs are a Super Bowl competitive team next year? The roster is way worse. You can't argue that. Quarterback is coming off ACL. The schedule is brutal. 7-10, maybe. Um, I'm going to grant you a lot of that, Jason. I mean, because a lot of it's true. Quarterback's coming off the ACL. It's going to be another tough schedule, as just seems like it always is for the Chiefs. A little bit of random bad luck that you're going to end up facing some really good teams. Um, even in your third team matchups. I mean, you're going to be playing the Bengals as a third place team out of the North, and I mean, you don't really think of the Bengals as a third place team either. So it's going to be tough. And I mean, in a lot of ways, you should look at this team and say, yeah, no, I mean, it was a 6-11 team for a reason. I'm there thinking that they can be competitive for about three reasons. One is anytime, I mean, if Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, you should be competitive. Doesn't matter what the rest of the roster is. He's good enough to drag you a ways. They got to be better, and the second reason why I'm a little bit optimistic in what they can do is that their running game last year was dreadful. It was abysmal. That might have been the worst running game I have seen for a team with a quarterback of Mahomes' ability that I've ever seen paired together. It was bad. And it was a systemic failure across the board. It was coaching, it was players, it was execution. They shouldn't be that bad. I mean, this is a good offensive line. It should be a really good run blocking defensive line. And I'm still concerned that the Chiefs have not learned their lessons from that they should have learned after the 2024 season, that there were elements of the run game that were getting stale and that they needed to clean up. Kenneth Walker can fix a lot of that. He can't fix everything. He can't fix blocking schemes, and he can't execute for the line in front of him. But this is a good offensive line, especially from a run blocking standpoint. They should be better than they were. And Kenneth Walker is a really good running back. I mean, if you give him a full workload, which I still think is a little much, I mean, he should at least be able to put up the numbers he put up in Seattle last year. I mean, if he's 1,000-yard rusher, a little bit better as a pass catcher, I mean, that position alone could change the entire complexion of this offense, because the Kenneth Walker last year faced more 7 men in the box than any other running back in the league last year. And the Chiefs faced more 6 guys in the box last year than any team in the NFL last year. I mean, that makes life harder on Mahomes. It makes it harder on every one of his receivers. You move one of those guys from pass coverage into the box to the guard against the run, and it changes the entire complexion of the passing game. I mean, there's a legitimate reason why Kenneth Walker and his presence should improve this entire offense. And the third is that this team is confident that they're not that far away. And yeah, I mean, I do think that there's legitimate excuses for some of the problems that the Chiefs had last year. They didn't have the luck that they certainly had a couple of years ago. They had pretty much nothing but bad luck last year. I'm not convinced that it's red and gold colored glasses to think that this team is a playoff team. I'm not saying they're going to go 15-2, 14-3, anything like that. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation. Could they? Maybe, but I think that would also require a lot of luck. But this team didn't just fall off the face of the earth. I mean, there was a reason why they were a Super Bowl team 14 months ago. I mean, there's the reason why. And I mean, hey, there was a lot of things that happened last year, and just hitting the wall after 3 straight deep runs. Nobody's ever had that run before. It takes its toll. So I get it, Jason. Like I said, I agree with the majority of your points. It's just that I do think that Kenneth Walker is going to make a difference. I do think that they're going to have a little bit. I think you'd have to almost assume that they're going to have better luck than they had last year. And I'm never going to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to bet against a team with Patrick Mahomes missing the playoffs. I mean, yeah, you would have lost last year, but more often than not, that dude's making the playoffs, and he's going to have yourself a competitive Super Bowl caliber team. Alan, why are the national media mock drafts all saying the Chiefs need a right tackle at 9? What do you think of that scenario, Matt? I actually had a conversation about this with a colleague this week, because we were talking about the fact that all of this conjecture and speculation that the Chiefs are considering a right tackle at 9 have all been national reporters and national draft experts. I don't know if any of us are draft experts, but some of us are more expert than others. But and I was also having this conversation last week with one of my local colleagues that none of us are hearing that. And I mean, I think part of it is that I think if you're covering this team from 30,000 feet and that's the level of granular detail that you get into this team, then yeah, you're like, hey, Jawan Taylor wasn't great. Chiefs don't even have Jawan Taylor anymore, so they have to get a right tackle. It's almost as though none of them are aware that Jalen Moore exists and that Jalen Moore was serviceable last year. I mean, I would argue that he was better than Jawan Taylor. That with the fewer penalties, with Jawan's knee situation, I think Jalen was a better tackle than Jawan was last year. Jalen should be a little bit of an upgrade. And if that's the weakest spot on your offensive line, then you're in pretty good shape. I mean, now, once again, you would like to make sure that you have Josh Simmons for all 17 games. You want to see Kingsley still playing as well as he has and did last year. You feel good about Creed and Trey. If, like I said, if Jalen's the weak part of your offensive line, I mean, I'm not concerned about that. He's serviceable. He's good enough to get you by. Doesn't mean the Chiefs won't consider a right tackle. I think it makes a lot more sense at 29 because there's only maybe one or two guys that are really considered first-round caliber tackles, and everybody else is kind of maybe a high second caliber of tackle. But it doesn't mean you're not going to take them because, once again, I mean, we've talked about it. Teams generally only have about maybe 15 players that they've got a first-round grade on. So if you're drafting at 29, more often than not, you're going to get a player that you've got a second round grade on. And if you've got some, and there's a bunch of tackles that I think are going to go in the late 20s, some big physical guys. And if the Chiefs get one of those and they're able to start this year and Jalen becomes your swing tackle again, I mean, it's an upgrade. But I don't get any indication from the Chiefs and the people that I talk to that taking a tackle at 9 is on the board. I mean, again, you don't know how things are going to fall the day of, but I would be stunned if the Chiefs drafted a right tackle at number 9. I just don't think that's going to happen. It's much more likely to me that they're taking an edge or any other position. But I think right tackle would be amongst the lower priorities that I see them going with at that spot. Andre, what wide receiver do you feel fits the team? One first round and another second plus round wide receiver. And Andre, I'm gonna assume you're like talking about draft players this year. And I'm still kind of muddling my way through the draft board and receivers group in general. Let me pull up my list here because I'm iffy on so many. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm just not. I'm not enamored with anybody yet, but it may just be that I just haven't watched enough of these guys to become enamored with anybody. I have my concerns about Carnell Tate and just how well he would fit into the Chiefs offense. Um, and then you get into that. Hey, would 9 be too early to take a Mekhi Lemon or a Jordan Tyson? At 29, there's a lot more players in the conversation there. And that kid from Indiana, Elijah Surratt, that would be an interesting one. I do like winners. Uh, I don't know. I keep going through the wide receiver class, and there's just and this is with what mock draft database I think has 5 or 6 receivers going in the potentially going in the first round. Maybe it'll be that many. I don't know. I'm just not as enamored with the field this year. And like I said, maybe looking at it more, watching more of the film will change my mind and everything. But I feel like that the Chiefs need to get away from focusing on the combine numbers. I feel like don't worry about the speed. I would not be worried about the speed. We're just worried about guys who can catch the ball, who can find open space. That, it's almost like you. I almost feel like the Chiefs just need to ignore the combine numbers and just go by the film, go by the guys that can win their matchups, that can find open space, that when the ball hits them in the hands, that they can catch it, because they've got a couple of guys that are athletic specimens, but didn't work last year. And coaching could help. Coaching could certainly help, because I thought that some of the problems that the Chiefs wide receivers have had the last couple of seasons have been with, I mean, how they read defenses and how they run their routes and how they try to find space. I mean, if you watch Seattle and Sam Darnold, I mean, is a game manager. That's what he is. But it's so much easier to manage the game when the guys that you're throwing to are consistently working to get open, that they can win their matchups, they can find that space, that they're where you expect them to be. And I mean, and now granted, some of that is if the Chiefs can run the ball more effectively, that they're going to get more favorable matchups in the secondaries, and they're going to be able to do some of that. But I would take a technician at this point at wide receiver over an athletic specimen. I don't need a guy that can run a 4.2 x 40. I'll take a 4.5 guy that can just get open and catch the ball, because apparently that's harder to find those guys than we think, apparently. That's where I would go, Andre. We'll see. And I'll try to give you a better answer, down the road once I look a little bit more at the draft and some of the guys coming out and everything. Chief 94, just how concerned should we be with the corner room right now? Third and long was such an issue for the defense last season. Slightly nervous about going into the season if they rely on rookies. And yeah, I'm with you. And you make a great point there, because I can't remember the last time I saw a team give up as many 3rd and 15 plus as it seemed like that the Chiefs did last year, and it was ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, I would be nervous with the current rotation. Even with Cater Kohu, bringing him in, coming off the ACL, that's not a slam dunk. You don't know for certain what he's going to be. I mean, I think that the Chiefs are hoping that he's a guy that can compete at that slot corner position and give them some depth. I also don't see the Chiefs. I mean, unless they've had a radical, meeting of the minds in the offseason, I don't see them, fading on Shamari Connor. So I'm assuming that Shamari Connor is still going to be primarily their slot corner, unless Cater Kohu comes in and really proves himself, and they feel like there's a different spot where they can put Connor. And granted, it's once again, it's everything. If you're going to beef up your secondary and you're going to improve your secondary play, you got to be able to get after the quarterback, which they have not done really very well the last 2 seasons. They were bad at it, and it didn't really stop them or hold them back too much in 24 when they made the Super Bowl run. But it really hurt them last year because they just didn't get to the quarterback enough and didn't get enough pressure on the quarterback. And as a result, you saw some pretty average quarterbacks picking apart the secondary, even though, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson were out there. And these are 2 guys, just pulled down over $200 million combined. So almost. So yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing, is that, you're talking about a Chiefs secondary that's gone out there and pulled in $210 million worth of contracts in the offseason. And this was a secondary that struggled at times last year, that struggled on 3rd and long. So yeah, they still got some work to do. I mean, I like Kevin Knowles, but I'm still not certain that you're very deep if he's your 3rd guy off the bench. I think they could use a veteran. I think they could use a rookie. I mean, and that's why 1st round corner would not surprise me at all. It's going to be a work in progress, but I mean, I think they're also going to have to be better at putting pressure on the quarterback if they want to help that secondary this year. And it's a transition all across the board on defense. I mean, I got more than a couple of things that they got to figure out there. So I think you should be concerned. I mean, is it my biggest hot button issue right now? I think that's still defensive line. I think your defensive line has got to get better. Um, on defense, it's probably, I mean, kind of running out of position groups there, but it would be number two with a bullet. I mean, that would be my number two concern. And again, it's a little bit the same reason. I mean, you need bodies in there. You need some good young talent across the board. I think they're okay at safety, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they took a safety in the draft either. So you need numbers. And as Brett Veach, I've heard him say many, many times, and it's cliche, but it is also a true cliche. Um, you can't have enough long, lean guys that can cover. And they had Trent McDuffie who could cover, but was not a long and lean guy. And replacing Trent is not going to be easy. I still think that they had to make that trade, but it's not going to be easy. And not really a question, but Carol brings up made a point that I've been talking about a lot lately. Is that I think it's a low heat, even though it ends in an I, and also given the fact that he is Polynesian, given the fact that the Chiefs. I need to go through. I mean, it seems like the Chiefs have more Polynesian players than anybody else in the league, and that's nothing, just an observation. And it's kind of funny because last year, if the Chiefs had actually been a good team, this would have been a good story. But last year, like the game that they played in, it basically replaced basketball for most of the season. But the game that they played was this. I got several different versions of what the name of this thing was called, but and where it originated. But everybody kind of agreed that it was the Poly guys that kind of brought it to the team last year. But basically, you look at each other and you look across from each other, and then you're like doing something with your hands, and you're trying to make the person follow your eyes to follow whatever gesture that you did. And it was maddening. I mean, I was too old to be able to keep up with it and figure out what the heck they were doing and who won and who lost and all these things. But the receivers were into it. Not all the corners. That was probably the one part of the room that didn't get into it a huge amount. But and then some of the college guys, younger college guys, were really really good at it. I guess Cooper McDonald played it a lot in college, and some guys played it a lot in college too. That would have been, if the Chiefs had made a Super Bowl run last year, this would have been like, hey, this locker room is built around this game, and it was the Pollies who kind of brought it into the locker room. But the receivers were big into it. Kingsley was big into it. Gosh, he and Esapole was really into it. There was a couple of tight ends that were into it too. So, I mean, it was fun talking to him about it and everything. I just wish that the season hadn't gone downhill, because I think it would have been a much better story. Okie dokie came up with this one. Everybody was trying to remind me about Kenyon Sadiq's name. Any chance you see him on the squad? Seems like a great receiving prospect. Could he contribute? Trade scenarios. I mean, that's I think obviously one of the possibilities that if the Chiefs want to get somebody like that, they may have to go up from 29. And so, yeah, I mean, if there's a tackle, a tight end, maybe a receiver, maybe a corner. I mean, Veach has got the capital move up from 29, and I think that's where he needs to be ready. And I think he will be ready to make a move if he has to. I think they're fine sitting back too if they think that they can get the guy that they want. Now, if they get to 23 and some of the guys that they want just start flying off the board, yeah, I could see them making a move up. Sadiq is clearly, I mean, the head and shoulders above everybody else, the tight end that everybody likes this year. Really the only tight end that I've heard anybody talk about as far as first round caliber player. I mean, there, and even though I said, like, Dane Brugler was talking about how deep that this draft is at tight end, it's deep, but it's not top heavy. So Sadiq is definitely the one that everybody's coveting as far as the first round goes. So I wouldn't. I'm not gonna guarantee that the Chiefs are gonna take a tight end or anything. I think Sadiq's distinctly a possibility, especially at 29. I think 9 would probably be too early. 29 might be too late. You might have to move up. But yeah, he's the guy that everybody seems to be drooling over as far as tight end goes this year. So if the Chiefs feel like they need a tight end, that would be the guy to go get. Nikki, what grade do you give Veach this offseason so far? Um, I I have a love-hate relationship with giving grades. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, it's so unfair until you see how these guys pan out. And we're just basic grades right now. We're just based on what our gut reactions to what we think that these things are from almost a fantasy football aspect, because you just don't know how things are gonna, go together and everything, and if they're gonna put together well. But I think he's done well. I think he got about as best value as he could have off of the Trent McDuffie trade, and I think that was a trade that he had to make. Um, I think he's done a pretty good job at this point of not chasing and overpaying for any of their own free agents that they would have probably liked to have kept. Not having a lot of cap space probably makes that easier. But I think the only player that I would say that the Chiefs, Kenneth Walker, they overpaid for. I mean, you have to overpay for a talent like that. I mean, it's just the reality of it. You're just trying to avoid, for the most part, not overpaying too much in free agency. I thought it was a good deal, especially compared to the at the end deal, A-chain deal, whatever we're calling him these days. Um, I thought that the Walker deal was a good deal. I mean, he's been paid like one of the top three running backs in the league. Is he one of the top three running backs? No, but that's the nature of free agency. Um, I I thought at first blanch, I thought the Kyrie's Tonga deal was a little on the high side, especially because that's a dude that if you had read the market, you could have had him on a multi-year deal last year for a fraction of that amount. Now, I mean, hey, he only earned a $2.1 million prove it deal last year, so you were on an island of 32 at that point. I mean, everybody kind of underrated him last year, and now you've overpaid and gone the other direction a little bit this year. If he does what the Chiefs thinks that he can do, then that's not going to be an overpay. That's going to be an appropriate pay. So I don't have a big issue with that. And I think the Gilman, that might be the best deal so far. As much as I like Brian Cook, Gilman is, I think, a better fit for the Chiefs secondary. He's more of a natural free safety. I think that's, in some ways, that's maybe a better, almost an upgrade, because you're paying a little bit less money for Brian Cook, and he's, better suited to the free safety role. I really like that one. I'd probably be going back and forth between a B plus and an A minus. I think you would always love to have filled a few more holes and everything. But I think it's done well so far. I mean, there's a little bit more to go. I see Abreu has just homered, and Salvi is at the plate. He's 1 for 1 today, and Venezuela's leading 2-0. So we'll see how it goes for Salvi here. But yeah, Nikki, I think it's been a good run for Veach this offseason. I think we'll see how the rest of it goes, and if he can get the draft to go his way too. But the fact that he was able to get the picks that he did for McDuffie and to replenish this year's draft class, that was a big step. So I think that one deal that, like I said, he had to make, it's helped to put this offseason in the right direction, because they know that they're still going to get they should be able to get some good players in this draft. Alan, will Spags' love affair with Connor continue, or will Spags make changes? I mean, like I said, maybe it's just the show me state guy in me. I'm going to assume that Steve Spagnuolo is going to continue to be the biggest Chamari Connor fan that there is in the world. I also saw, I don't know if everybody else saw this, I think Chamari Connor received the 11th biggest performance bonus, which is primarily based on snap counts, but there's a performance component in there too. But it's designed to reward players outside the first round who are drafted later, or undrafted free agents who end up playing a lot more above their position and where they entered the league and what their contract is. And I mean, that's something that Connor was, like I said, the 11th biggest bonus in that group. The Chiefs had another one too, and I'm trying to remember who was the other one that was in that. Oh, it was Kingsley. Also was in the top 25. So great for both those guys. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt they love Chamari. They love themselves some Chamari. Okay, now I can see that StreamYard is playing with me tonight because Montre did not give me a notification. So I am so sorry, Montre, that I missed out on you here. And then Dog Petters disappeared from earlier. So that's why I didn't see yours, Montre, because it still said we only had one super chat. And I still assumed that was the one that we had earlier from Dog. So my apologies, Montre, for checking in here late. But due to the need at corner, can you see a return of Snead? I mean, I know Chiefs fans would love it. I like it too because Jarius is a good dude, but I'm just really worried that there's not enough juice left in that knee of Legarius. The last two seasons at Tennessee when he played, they weren't. He did not play well. It wasn't a great season. I mean, in each one, and the second season was worse than the first. I'm just not sure there's a lot there. And if you are signing Legarius with the notion that he's going to be a part-time player and maybe only play 12 games, and he's going to have to sit some weeks because of that knee, I mean, at least that's the right mindset to go into. But I'm just not sure that there's a whole lot left in that knee of Legarius. I wish there was. He's like I said, I think a really really good dude. He was a fun player to watch play. Really enjoyed that, but man, I just don't think there's anything there. I mean, if he was willing to come back on a low cost 1 year prove it deal, go for it. But I and I could see it happening. I mean, I could see the reunion happening, that Legarius comes back, but I don't think it's gonna work out. So is it worth it giving a shot to? Maybe. And you might know your answer during OTAs, whether or not Legarius has got anything left in the tank or not. Montre, thank you very much for the super chat. I truly appreciate that. And apologies once again that I missed you for, I think that was 15 minutes there. I have StreamYard just does not love me sometimes. Um, JR, is it time to use Xavier Worthy for punts? It seems like they had been protecting him, thinking he would become an elite receiver, but since he's just a good receiver, it may be worth the risk. It's a good question, and my gut is going to tell me that I think that they're going to continue with him in the emergency mode, that if it felt like that they needed a home run play in a situation, that they might consider it. I think there's two things with Xavier that are going to always deter them from considering him for the punt return job. And um, same thing with the kick return job, but punt return job specifically. One is that it exposes you to hits. And let's face it, Xavier is not the biggest guy in the world. He's not as big as and not as thick as Tyreek was. So Tyreek, even though similar height wise, Tyreek had probably about 20 pounds on Xavier. And and Tyreek was he was thick. He had some muscles. I mean, and he was sculpted. So he bore up to the punishment a little bit better than I think that Xavier would, and they don't want him to take that punishment. They don't want to take the unnecessary hits. And then the second part of it is that they don't want situations where they're going to open the drive and not have him for perhaps the first two or three plays because he just returned a punt, and it needs a breather and everything. So hey, if they get to a point where they feel like that Xavier is not a guy that's going to be playing as many snaps, and they can afford to cut him back a little bit, I'm just not sure that they're up to that point yet. I don't know that they've got enough receivers to say, hey, we can take Xavier off the field for first two or three plays of a drive after he returns a punt, because he needs a little bit of a breather. And I don't think that they're deep enough at receiver to be able to risk him out there taking hits and, for the possibility of maybe losing him for a game or more, depending on, how hard he gets hit. Last year with that shoulder, there was no chance that they were going to run him out there. And even this year, I mean, that shoulder might be a consideration for why they might not return him back to punts. And They did re-sign Nico Remigio. That's no guarantee that Nico makes the roster, but he would at least at this point be your incumbent there as your punt returner and one of your kick returners. Rashard Smith is absolutely going to play a bigger part in that. I think there's maybe a chance that Rashard enters actually as the incumbent as the punt returner. He was probably going to be one of your top two kick returners too. So there are other options there. Um, they talked about it at one point. I don't know that they were necessarily going to consider Jalen Royals in either one of those roles. I think they want to get him fully healthy and on the right track before they go down that road. So I, it's interesting to see how all that may work out, Jr. But I think that Xavier as a regular punt returner, I think it's probably Plan C or Plan D on their list right now. Chris, who are in your final four? And I'm assuming you're talking about the tournament. I have not filled out my bracket yet, either for the men's or the women's. I imagine I will do it because I'll probably end up in some sort of contest and everything, mostly for pride, because I don't follow college basketball enough to put money on any of my predictions. I was doing really, really well last year, and until all my teams in the final dropped out, and then I collapsed in the final weekend. But I had a nice little run last year. I mean, I know I'm going to be a complete and total homer and have Duke in the Final Four because I am a Duke homer. I normally try to take Mizzou one round less than I think that they will go, just out of no faith. So but then I always chicken out, and then I usually take them one round further than I think that they will go. So I fully expect that the Tigers will bow out in the second round. So I'll either take them and they lose in the first round or to make the Sweet 16. The Frank Haith Classic, though, that will be a tough opening matchup, even if it is in St. Louis. So, but boy, Mizzou really needs to win that game, considering how much of a kiss they got from the committee ending up in St. Louis when they probably should have ended up in Dayton. So I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to take that and hope that they pull it off. But yeah, I would not probably go with my college basketball picks because I know so little about college basketball these days, especially these days with all of the NIL and the transfer portal. I can barely keep track of the guys on my own team. So JK, hi, fellow Traders fan. I've been curious why Chiefs running back and wide receiver coaches were so inexperienced at their positions last year. Was it cost containment, loyalty, both, neither? And both those guys, with Todd Pinkston at running backs coach and Connor Embry at wide receiver, with Embry, it was basically promotion. I mean, he's been with the club for, gosh, I think, I'm trying to remember if it was like 2017, 2018 when Connor Embry came in, and he progressively just moved up, one spot after another. Chiefs liked him. They thought he's a good young coach, he's a NFL legacy. I mean, he comes from a coaching family. So they were pleased with his performance, and as other coaches left, Connor got promoted and next rung up and everything. And so that's kind of where, he ended up where he was. Todd Pinkston's interesting because I'm still not entirely sure when he was hired. It's almost, my recollection is that he was hired without a position. And I'm trying to remember if I don't think that maybe Connor Embry had just moved into the wide receiver role, but not. I think that maybe there was both their first season together, and that Connor had already been promoted to the wide receiver coach's role when they brought in Todd Pinkston. Pinkston would be more suited for the wide receiver role. But hey, Todd Pinkston was an Andy Reid guy. He wanted to get him on the staff. It wasn't a good fit. I mean, it never really was. And I'm kind of surprised that they extended it as long as they did. I don't think it was cost containment with either one of them. I mean, the Chiefs have been shown a willingness to pay their assistant coaches and pay their head coach. So I don't think that was an issue. Maybe a little bit of loyalty, certainly to Todd Pinkston. I think that's what got him the opportunity. I mean, they wouldn't hire any reason not going to hire anybody or promote anybody that doesn't think is a good coach. But yeah, I do. I think that he um, got kind of promoted into that position to, for Connor, maybe a little bit over his head. Although I thought he had one good, I thought in 25, 24, excuse me, 24 in particular, they had a lot of injuries and I mean, once again, I mean, he was wide receivers coach for a Super Bowl team, so they weren't doing everything wrong. But they were both in a little bit over their heads, and once things went south, that in particular, they might have both been very good coaches at kind of keeping things going when things were going well, but once things went south, maybe a little bit of the tenor of the rooms changed, and that's, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, the wide receiver room needed more experience. It needed a more, I think maybe a tougher hand. That's what all accounts Chad O'Shea is. That he's a tough coach, but he's a fair coach. He's a good coach. He's going to get the best out of people. There's going to be accountability there. I think that's what a lot of Chiefs would like to hear about the wide receiver room. DeMarco Murray, everybody was singing his praises from Oklahoma. I mean, you saw a lot of his former players, really excited when he got the job here. Other NFL teams have tried to hire him. Seems like that's a good addition. And again, I mean, he's an experienced running back that should be able to help guys. We'll see how it works, but uh, I mean, loyalty might have been at least one of the factors. I don't think it was an overriding factor, though. I mean, I think Andy Reid had faith in both those guys. It's just that in the long term, it didn't work out the way that they hoped. So I definitely don't think it was cost, though. And I mean, I don't think, like I said, I don't think that loyalty was the overriding issue with both those guys, but I think it was definitely maybe too much optimism, and maybe a little overestimation of the skill set that that both those guys could handle those roles, and in the end, it just didn't work out the way they wanted. KUJ 41. Well, I like the 41 for sure. I know Nick would like the 41. What's your ideal picks for the Chiefs from picks 9 to 40? Like I said earlier, I mean, I think obviously I think the ideal pick for the Chiefs at 9 would be Ruben Bain. That's the guy that they're hoping will fall there. I think that's the one that you would like to see there. I think that would be the player that would have the biggest impact and could really turn that pass rush around. At 29, I've been going back and forth. I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, we talked about earlier, corner being a possibility, wide receiver, tackle. I could see all of those. You know, and once again, I mean, we'll have to figure out where some of the medicals are on some of these guys and everything, and maybe we'll get more information about that as we get closer to the draft and everything. But we talked about Kenyon Sadiq as a tight end possibility. I'm going to throw out another possibility at 29 because Caleb Banks from Florida, I think would really fit in well with the defensive line. And I tell you what, if you went D and D tackle with Bain and Caleb Banks, that might just be a crushing inside out duo, and that would definitely make things easier on your secondary. I think to have a couple guys like that in there. I like the tackles in there too. I mean, there's a few of them. Caden Proctor, from Alabama, is probably going to 20s. I mean, and both him and Banks, there's a chance you probably have to move up to go get those guys. I'd like both of them. Like we talked about Kenyon Sadiq earlier. Caden McDonald from Ohio State, I think would be an interesting, player there. If you don't get Ruben Bain, I mean, I'm going to be the Mizzou homer, and I'm going to be circling Zion Young at 40. But I'm at this point betting that the Chiefs are going to get their guy and get Ruben Bain at 9, or maybe move up a little bit, make sure they get their guy. After that, I mean, you could go a couple of different directions. For this exercise, I I think I might go Caden Proctor, the tackle from Alabama, put him on the right side opposite Josh Simmons. I think I might take him might have to move up from 29 to get him, but I think I would go get that. So I would go Bain, I would go Proctor, 40. I'm going to go Lee Hunter from Texas, the defensive lineman. I think that would be a really good. Now, we haven't addressed corner. That's something you're still going to have to address at some point. You're going to try to address. You're going to want to pick up a receiver somewhere, and I mean, again, it all depends on where guys fall and everything like that. But I think right now, I mean, I think those would be three pretty solid picks for the Chiefs, and between 9, 29, and 40. Brad, Roger McCreary, would you add him to the Chiefs secondary? And plus, got the draft coming up there. Good cornerback in this draft. I mean, it does seem like there's, again, in the draft class, there's good numbers. I'm not sold with what I've seen and heard about the top of the cornerback class. That's why I would probably say at 9, probably not going corner. I think the kid from LSU, I think, is generally considered to be the number 1 corner in the draft. And, and that's like maybe mid-teens, maybe the bottom of the list of kind of the surefire first-round picks. Could take him at 9. I think that's probably a little bit of an overdraft. And when you've got other needs and you want to try and address edge and, I mean, there's a couple of non-premium positions too that Brett Veach talked about, between Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles and the safety Caleb Downs. I mean, there's some players at non-premium positions. And I mean, the one thing I'm ruling out is I can't imagine the Chiefs going after Jeremiah Love. I mean, I still think that he's gone before that. I've always thought that Tennessee makes the most sense at 4. I know some people think that, hey, they're going to go offensive tackle there because they need to be able to protect a quarterback after he got hammered last year, but they need to be able to run the football too. And Love would take a lot of heat off that quarterback as well. So yes, they need some offensive line help, but I think he just makes too much sense there. And if not, I mean, there might be somebody willing to trade up to go get him. So I think Love's going to be well gone before the Chiefs are going to be available at 9 to go get him. And honestly, that helps him because anybody takes that's not Ruben Bain is going to help you. For McCreary, I was going to look and see real quick. I'm trying to remember where his his market value was coming out to, and oops. As I put in the wrong number, here we go. Roger, where are you? I mean, there's a lot of interesting names on the free agent market. What is McCreary's situation? For some reason, I'm not. Oh wait, there. Oh, that's because he's already signed. He signed with the Lions. So, looks like he is now off the market. I'm not sure when that happened, but it's at least what's on here. So I'm assuming that's the case. I'll be honest. Like I said, I think there's a bunch of other, corners out there, some of which might be willing to take a pay cut to come here. I can say that has been some heat around Trayvon Diggs, maybe interested in a smaller prove-it deal, or maybe even would be willing to kind of kick some of that into a void years kind of situation, kind of like the Kelce contract, but not necessarily. His market value is 7.5, but speculation is that he might be willing to take less to come to Kansas City. There may be a few others that would fit into that category. I mean, there's always seems like there's buzz around the Chiefs acquiring Marshawn Lattimore in one way or another, and they haven't done it before in the past. They've come close, supposedly, but has never quite happened. I'm still not sure at his age if I would do that, because I think he's still probably not quite the fit that the Chiefs need, and the value might not be there, but they need somebody, Brad. I'm not disputing that at all. I mean, they really need to find somebody. and they probably need a couple of somebodies because they need somebody in the draft and they need a veteran to come in there. Remember, right now, I mean, Alohi Gilman is kind of the old man in the cornerback room, and Christian Fulton's you got a old man in the cornerback spot. So they could use some veteran help in there. So. And then Brad, disagree with you on the defensive side, and I think solid, but I agree with on adding more depth at D-line and corner. Absolutely. Like I said, I expected the Chiefs to add 4 to 5 new faces on defensive line this offseason. They've got one done, so I would expect 3 to 4 more. Wouldn't be surprised if 2 to 3 of them came from the draft. So maybe we will end up with a Fab Five of sorts. Maybe it's going to be like 3 defensive linemen and 2 corners at the Chiefs draft. They may expect all of them to be able to come in and play this year, because yeah, I mean they still need a lot of bodies at corner. I'm not entirely convinced that, even with the Kohu signing, and I mean, you throw in Knowles, you throw in Fulton, you got Noel Williams and Kevin Knowles. I should specify between Kevin Knowles and Noel Williams, but. It's not a guarantee that all 4 of those guys are going to make it. And, you're probably the Chiefs maybe going to cover 5 or 6 corners. So, yeah, I mean, I think they definitely need some more depth at both those spots. Yeah, we're completely agree on that. Pano, why do you feel Kevin Walker isn't all that? I mean, I actually do think he's an incredible player. I mean, do I think he's top 3 in the league? No, I mean, I don't think that he's on the par with Saquon and McCaffrey. When you put Gibbs in there, maybe the 3rd right now. I think he's in that next group. I mean, I'd put him in that next tier. So, I mean, if you wanted to say he's one of the top 5 or 6 running backs in the league, I would definitely co-sign on that. And I think that, I mean, Kevin Walker, and this is no knock against, Pacheco or Kareem, in particular, because those are the guys that were mostly carrying the ball the last couple of years. I mean, Pacheco just hasn't been the same since the injury. I mean, and you can't help that. I mean, that's just is what it is. He was really good that rookie year, and and considering he didn't start the entire season and he came on late, I mean, had he started from week 1, he would have been a 1,000-yard rusher. And Brett Veach's prediction about a 1,000-yard rusher in the 7th round would have come true. Year 2 struggled, and then the injury hit, and then after that, he just hasn't been the same. But Kenneth Walker is, I mean, he is a fun back to watch. He is so patient. He is so quick to the hole that once he finds the hole and once he sees where he wants to go, he is so good at then making guys miss. I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch. I think Chiefs fans are going to fall in love with Kenneth Walker in a hurry. And, and some of it's going to be that it's just such a difference from what they've seen the last couple of seasons that Kenneth Walker is going to probably, you're right. I mean, may just seem like sliced bread. I mean, it's just going to be the greatest thing you've ever seen. I mean, I do think he's overpaid, but again, you have to do that if you want to fix your problem. And I think Kenneth Walker's going to fix their problem. So I didn't mean to give the impression that I don't think he's all that Pono. I think he's really, really good. And for this team, he might be the perfect fit. So we're good there. Tim with the super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Forget Edge. Chiefs need to sign a free agent water boy. The Chiefs had the highest off-target nozzle to mouth ratio in the league last year. Think of how hydrated Mahomes could be throwing deep balls. Well, that is definitely the most amusing super chat I've ever seen, Tim. So thank you. I appreciate that. Nozzle to mouth ratio. That sounds dirty, but I'm not quite sure why. Hey, the athletic trainers make a ton of money to get that hydration in. So actually, they don't make nearly as much as they probably should. I say that they work their butts off. I know the athletic trainers, the equipment managers, those folks are like in the building at 5 a.m. and going home at like 10 o'clock at night, probably later than that most days. So those are the unsung heroes of the NFL. Your athletic trainers and your equipment managers. What they do, I couldn't do it. That's for sure. Let's see. I know exactly where I was and what was up next. Brad. People on social media asking about wanting Cam Jordan to the Chiefs, who is 37 years old, and see him as a rotational role and not starter, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, that's what Cam Jordan would be, and so he wouldn't be at this point demanding the paycheck of a guy that's younger and going to be a full-time starter. What's his? Let me look at his snap counts the last few seasons and where he's been at. I mean, that's the thing is he's just a productive player is all. I mean, yes, he's been in the league forever. He is going to be 37 in July. Let me look up his snap counts real quick. I mean, he played, go back to 2023. He's gone 70%, 48%, 54%. And, and gone from, mostly he had been in the 800s, then had a couple of years in the 700s, and now 565 and 590 the last 2 years. That's what you'd be paying for. You'd be paying for a guy that probably give you 500 snaps tops, maybe even a little bit less than that if you want to try and keep him fresher and everything. So yeah, I mean, he'd be a rotational piece. You'd have to pay him like a rotational piece. You're not going to be paying Cam Jordan $15 million a year or anything like that. I mean, it would be a lower amount than that. So it'd have to be the right deal at the right price and everything. But it would make sense. Like I said, I've heard a lot of different things about Cam Jordan that goes across the board from, that, hey, would consider Kansas City to, nope, it's New Orleans or bust. 37 years old. He can pretty much do whatever he wants to do at this point. Let's see here. I moved around and lost my place again. I love Faye. What would surprise you at pick 1? I think you mean 9 and 29. Pick 9. What would surprise me? Anything in the realm of possibility wouldn't surprise me too much. I'd probably be surprised if the Chiefs went linebacker. I mean, if either Arvell Reese, by all accounts, won't be there. Sonny Styles got a chance to be there at 9. I'd be surprised if the Chiefs went that direction. I'd probably be surprised even if they went Caleb Downs. I honestly think I'd be surprised if they went wide receiver. I could see them going corner. It wouldn't stun me if they went corner because, I mean, there's at least a player of that caliber there at the top of the draft that, like I said, the LSU kid, is it Mansour? If he was there, I could see that. I mean, and there's just so much buzz around the Chiefs and edge that I think that makes the most sense. So to a degree, I would probably be mildly surprised if it was anybody but an edge player there. A non-premium position after that would, and if the Chiefs, if Jeremiah Love did fall to 9 and the Chiefs drafted Jeremiah Love, you could knock me over with a feather because I would not think that the Chiefs would plunk $60 million guaranteed into their running backfield. So I don't think that's going to happen. But that would surprise me. 29, I mean, anything's on the table at 29. You can really go anywhere, and any position makes sense, even if it's not a position of positional value. So you could go anywhere. Probably the only thing that would surprise me at 29 would be quarterback. Can't imagine the Chiefs doing that. But almost anything else. Probably not guard either, guard or center. I think you feel pretty good there. That'd be about it. I mean, almost anything else. But between 9 and 29, if those 2 picks in the first round, if they end up taking them, if it's not some combination of edge, corner, wide receiver, offensive tackle, tight end would be the outlier there. Possibility. If it wasn't one of those 5 position groups, I would be surprised. I think those 2 picks would be some combination of those 2 groups, those 5 groups. Lemons, bone on bone, Sneed. No, thank you. Yeah, that's my. Unfortunately, I'm with you there. As much as like I said, as much as I love Legarius, that would be a hard to pull the trigger on that one. Alan, the $1 million question: why bring back Mike and not Leo? Chiefs Kingdom rather have Leo. It's technically not $1 million question. It's probably closer to a $24 million question because that is going to end up being the difference on their contracts. The Chiefs didn't, and I assume you're talking about Mike Caliendo there. Chiefs, they didn't offer him the contract tender that would have pushed to given him a deal a little over north of $3 million. They gave him less than half that. So, and Leo's getting 24 million from Washington. So, not even remotely in the ballpark. I mean, Leo, Mike's is going to be just slightly over NFL minimum. I'm not sure if I've seen the official numbers yet. It might even be NFL minimum with just maybe some incentives for playing time in there. But that's it. I mean, and I'd love to have Leo back too, but the Chiefs, there were two things that the Chiefs could not give Leo that he wanted, and one was every down playing time and $25 million. So wasn't there. I think they would have loved to have had Leo back, but it just wasn't going to work out. Not the way that the Chiefs run their scheme and the way that they utilize Leo. They just don't see him as a 3-down player, and as a result, Leo wanted to go somewhere where he was going to play. So, I mean, Leo coming back to Kansas City just wasn't really going to be an option. Eric, why not draft a wide receiver at 9? Rice, Worthy, and Tyquan is best case, and Rice might miss 10 games. I'd draft Lemon. And that's an option. I mean, and I know there's going to be a lot of people, pushing for Carnell Tate at 9. I'm just, like I said, maybe I need to watch him more. I'm just not enamored with any of the wide receivers. I would be happier taking them at lower point. I mean, I wouldn't want to take any of them at 9. If I traded back and got some more draft capital and got one of them at 14 or 15, I'd probably feel better about it. I'm just Lemon. I'm a little bit higher on than Tate. Tate, for some reason, I can't quite explain it. I just have a bad feeling about Tate's fit in the Chiefs scheme and everything like that. And hey, Brett Veach, Andy Reid, those guys have forgotten more about football than I'm ever going to know. So I will gladly admit that I may be completely on an island on that one. Last year, I would not have drafted Josh Simmons. I based on what I knew about the injury and that patella tendon tear, I wouldn't have touched him. But that worked out really well for the Chiefs. Gary, thank you for a message there. And yes, everyone, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Truly would appreciate it. Very kind words. And Rick, you're kind of in the ballpark here too. This is the longest off season ever. Other shows are writing off Rashard Smith. Matt, you and Nick were in the early fan club. What are we going to do about it? I'm still in the Rashard Smith fan club. I mean, there were things I still saw last year that I think that this kid can do. The Chiefs they never took the training wheels off. I was really surprised about that, especially after what we saw in training camp and everything like that. I thought we would see a lot more of him. I thought it was really still interesting that, when asked if Andy Reid, he saw him as a running back or a wide receiver going forward, he said both. So I'm going to be really interested to see, what we do see from Rashard during OTAs, and if he's in the working out more with the wide receivers, or he's still strictly with the running backs. Because, like I said, I mean, my projection for him has probably evolved a little bit more to low-end Dexter McCluster and high-end Dante Hall. I mean, I don't want to put too much pressure on him. That's why I think I keep with the Dexter McCluster comparison. You can put DeAnthony Thomas in there too. I don't try to make the Dante Hall comparison very often, because Dante was just, I mean, a world-class punt and kick returner. I mean, that dude was amazing. So I don't want to put that kind of pressure on Rashard, but I mean, like I said, that to me is his high end, low end kind of. Hey, if he ended up being Dexter McCluster, I'm not gonna feel bad about that for a seventh round draft pick, and it turns out to be more than that, better, even greater. But I still see a lot of juice in that kid, Rick. Really do. Eric, do you need a high self-esteem to be on camera in the business? Do you feel confident on camera and radio? Um, I'll be honest, Eric, I never feel comfortable anywhere. I do feel more comfortable on the radio, just that's audio, obviously audio medium, but I've also spent a lot more time in radio. I started working in radio when I was 18. Wasn't haven't been working in radio consistently, but I've done it so long that I don't get I don't feel self-conscious or anything, and I mean, don't get nervous or anything on radio. Hey, on camera, I still get a little nervous. I mean, I try to be more relaxed here and not worry about things too much. Maybe I take it too casual sometimes, as my effort to make myself more comfortable and confident. But I still get nervous on TV. I don't know if that'll ever go away. Do you need to have high self-esteem to be on camera? I would say it helps, just because, I mean, like right now, I'm probably stammering a little bit here and using some filler words. It certainly helps that if you are confident and your words can come out more forcefully, and like I said, I probably turn these into a little bit more of a casual conversation, than a typical TV performance. And then obviously, you're not on TV as long as this, and unless you're doing a 4-hour show on ESPN, that's a little bit different. But yeah, I think you have to have a little bit of high self-esteem for TV, just because everything's out there. I mean, I'm looking at myself right now on the screen and my camera, and I'm thinking to myself, my hair looks terrible. Uh, I'm still heavier than I want to be. Say a camera adds 10 pounds. So then you're asking how many cameras are on me right now. So yes, I'm a little self-conscious about all those things. So you probably do need to be confident, probably more on TV than on radio, but it all just takes time. The more you do it, the more you get used to it. So if you're thinking about doing it or anything like that, just do it. That's about the only thing you can do. Shoot yourself, and put yourself on camera, everything like that. Shoot videos of yourself and make yourself more comfortable with it. About the best thing. Somebody really, I mean, couldn't do when I was a kid. We didn't have a video camera or anything like that. I mean, some of my friends did, and I was fortunate enough that we started a video program at my high school when I was a senior, and so then I got to do a little bit of stuff there. But I was almost like, the funny thing is that when I was in high school and doing that kind of thing, we were on cable access. I didn't know enough to be nervous. I mean, knowing what I know now, I would have been terrified back then. I was more nervous I think, on the air, on the radio back then than I was on video. But now it's the other way around. I'm a lot more comfortable on radio than I am on camera. Camera's just going to expose everything, though. So I think most people are probably the same way, but again, it's whatever you do the most is what you're going to get comfortable with and everything. So, hope I answered your question, Eric. It's sometimes it's a tough one for me, because I do get self-conscious about my appearance at times and everything, and for some reason I don't know if it's like a jaw problem. Like right now, I have the thing where my mouth is kind of slanted. So, so I find myself seeing it every once in a while, and then I try to straighten my face up and everything like that, so that I don't look like I have a permanent smirk on my face or anything. I probably need to go to the dentist and have them pop something or something. Well, maybe a chiropractor. I don't know. I don't know what causes my lopsided grin. But I hope that helps. It long-winded answer, Eric, that would not really be appropriate for TV, which is why you find it here on YouTube. I think I answered Rick's question there. I got out of order a little bit. Gary, would you go cornerback or edge at 9? Like I said, I'm going edge. If it's not Baines, the problem is if Baines not there, I'm not just taking any edge. And like I said, if I'm the Chiefs, I don't think Bailey's the right fit. So if Bain is gone, corner becomes a much stronger option. And then Oscar, if not Bain, would they go Tate, trade back because they think they can get their better player a few spots later? That's where I would be, I think, Oscar is. I mean, and it depends on what Brett Veach is thinking. I mean, I would say if Bain's not there at 9, I would try to trade back. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to be able to find the partner that wants it. Although, if Tate's available, there are always going to be teams that want a wide receiver. So I think you could find a trade partner. It's just you don't want to fall too far back. I mean, you'd like to pick up a pick or two and maybe only move back like 5 spots. You don't want to drop back 10 because then you run the risk of really not getting, a player that you like. Whereas we've talked about, if you've got 15 players on your board that are first round picks and you trade down to 14, you're still going to get a player that is a first round pick on your board. You're still getting value. So that's the thing to me. I wouldn't want to trade back too far. But if Tate's a first round grade for you, Bain's not there. Yeah, you will consider anybody that you've got a first round grade on. Even to me, even if it's not a premium position, you get a first round grade on them, you're going to consider them at 9, or even if you trade back to 13, 14, 15. And if Tate's the highest guy on your board, I say stick true to your board. I mean, you've got enough needs across that as long as you're taking somebody in a position of need, and I mean, you're not gonna, if the best player on your board when you draft is a quarterback, well, you're not taking the quarterback. So you can't strictly say you're taking the best player available, but the best player at your needs, that's you just stay true to your board. This is a cliche, but it's again another one of those cliches that are true. Deleting a dumb comment. Sorry, not one of our regulars, so that's okay. I'm pretty sure it was just a troublemaker. Oh, let's see. I got it. There you go. Fab 5 2.0, Fabulous 5. Yep. I've been going Fab 5 Part 2, but Fabulous 5 2.0. I think that would work, Alex or Alan. Too many Allens and Alex tonight. I'm sorry. Let's see where Nikki, in light of the prevalence of CTE, should there be a mandatory retirement age for NFL players? I don't think there should be, Nikki. I mean, I get it. And, and players, if they've taken a lot of hits, I get that they may not be making the best decisions, but most players have family and friends around them that, will tell them the truth too. And I think we're actually seeing we've seen a lot of players that I think obviously with some CTE concerns that have retired sooner than later. I don't know if I can necessarily. I mean, and if you're talking about players in particular that are guys that have gone into the age 35 plus and everything, I'm not sure that I've seen anybody that I would put into that category that I would be concerned about having CTE. I mean, like, guy that jumps out to me most is like, Terrell Suggs was one of those guys that, was into his late 30s. And I mean, Terrell didn't, I mean, I probably should be careful because I don't want to give any, impressions of taking this lightly or, giving a false impression about how you can tell if somebody has CTE, because I don't think that's the case. But, whenever I talk to Terrell Suggs, I felt like I was, talking to an investment banker that, went to Harvard or something. He's just a really smart guy and really thoughtful and everything. So, you never know. And I mean, I think I could be with you there on a certain number of concussions. I mean, I get the thing that they all say, and the medical people, and then especially at least the football medical people will say, and the athletic trainers, every player is different, every brain is different, and that's probably true. And there are things that could happen earlier in your life and your career that are going to affect that as well. I mean, we've also seen players take one concussion and it basically end their careers, and we've seen other players probably suffer dozens of concussions, and it doesn't affect their career length at all. We still don't know enough about it, unfortunately. So I do wish that, but yes, that the people around players did a better job of looking out for them sometimes. And I think most players do have people who are looking out for them. I don't know if we're ever going to get perfect, but and it probably doesn't. And the pessimist in me is probably like Nikki, is that it probably doesn't matter because full contact football as it's played right now is probably not long for this world. It's probably going to be legislated out eventually. Not to get too dreary here. See, Rick, here's my other problem. It's probably I don't have much of the sucralose anymore. I have the regular sugar, and that's what's probably putting me in this state. That's why I can't remember people's names sometimes, and I can't keep track of draft wide receivers. I don't think it's why I get so hypercritical of myself on video, though. That's probably just me naturally. We are getting near the end here, so I'm going to put out last call. Anybody else have any more questions that you want to get in before the deadline? Fire them away now, and if not, hold your peace for one more week, and we'll be back. KUJ41, is there any actual traction with possibly signing Cam Jordan? I'm going to probably say no on that one because I think at this point all we have is some rampant speculation that the Chiefs are interested and that Cam Jordan is interested. I don't think there's any solid evidence that that's the case. And like I said, I've talked to some people who say that there is no interest on either side. Maybe there's interest in one, but not the other. It's all across the board. So don't see anything firm at this time. So I would say hold tight. Could it happen? I mean, anything is possible, but I still think all things being equal, I mean, I kind of am in that same ballpark that like I said, that some others have said to me is that Cam Jordan, it's probably the staying with the Saints or bust. And if he doesn't stay with the Saints, that he might just either retire or sit back and wait and see what happens. Rick, don't you think it's time to get another wide receiver? Rice can't stay out of the news, and eventually he may be off the field again. Who knows? I mean, if you're the Chiefs, you're going into this. I mean, this is a contract season for Rasheed Rice. So at the very least, you have to be considering that this is your last year of Rasheed Rice. So you've got to be prepared. And that's when you start looking ahead. I mean, and that's why, yes, if you're the Chiefs, you do have to seriously consider receiver, I think, in absolutely the first 2 days of the draft. First round, second round, third round. I mean, you should consider that because Rasheed Rice, you have him for one more year that you know of. And I'm assuming that unless something dramatically changes and Rasheed is willing to sign a significant, below market deal, this probably is Rasheed Rice's, last year in Kansas City. There's no guarantees. I mean, with the way things have gone, if you're the Chiefs, you don't want to make a high-end, long-term investment in Rasheed. Things there'd have to be a pretty dramatic difference in that. So to make that happen. So I'm assuming that, hey, Rasheed Rice won't be back in Kansas City in 2027 since he's not under contract. And if that's the case, you got to go draft that's the case. So that's the way I would go about it. Chris, do you think Larry Johnson could have CTE? I'm not trying to be a jerk here, Chris, or anything like that. I'm just trying to be, I think, fair, and I'm not a doctor. I mean, I've only seen Larry Johnson in person maybe once or twice. I have not spent a lot of time with him. His career was over before I got on the Chiefs beat. So even with players that I've covered their entire career, I wouldn't want to speculate about that. I mean, I don't think it's appropriate. It's a little bit of, talking about somebody else's medical conditions or, suspected potential without any facts. I would not want somebody to do that to me, so I'm not going to do that to him. I will say this, based on what I have heard about Larry from people who did cover him, you can't always associate being a jerk with CTE. Some people are just a jerk. And that, I think might be more of the case with Larry. I don't know. I am more comfortable, calling people a jerk. because that's not a medical diagnosis. That is purely opinion. And in this case, it's even worse. I'm just reporting other people's opinion. But the overwhelming evidence is that that's probably the case. And so I will say things like that, Chris. So, you got me at least there to be able to say that. I'm not going to talk about anybody's medical diagnosis or, any speculate there or anything. But yeah, I think Larry's problem might have just been that, he's too proud of Larry, but it is what it is. Now I'll stop getting myself into trouble. Imagine if Nick were watching this right now, he's just shaking his head. Probably the last question here from Baby the King. What do you think of Sadiq? I mean, from what I've seen, I agree with the general perception of him, that he's the best tight end in the draft. My only hesitation is that he did measure in at 6'3" at the combine, and the track record for 6'3" tight ends in the NFL, the next 1,000-yard receiver that was as a tight end that is 6'3" or shorter will be the first. So nobody's done it. Evan Ingram is the most successful 6'3" or shorter receiver in NFL history. He did get to 963, so that's the record. 963 yards. I mean, if I told you a guy was Evan Ingram, you would probably take that, because Evan Ingram's been a really, really good player over the years. It's just that at tight end, you got to be a big dude, and and I've talked to some people, and I've looked at the tape too, and so I know that this backs up what people have told me, that he's special, that he's a freak, that he's an amazing athlete, an amazing player, all of these things. It's just I'm a big proponent of patterns and all of these things, and I can't explain it. I can't tell you why that 1 or 2 inches makes a difference. There have been some 1,000-yard receivers at 6'4", more at 6'5", none at 6'3". So like I said, I wish I could explain it. That would be my only concern, is that as long as you're going into that knowing that this is not the next Travis Kelce. You're not getting the next Travis Kelce. The next Travis Kelce is not going to be, that's somebody who's going to put up, 7 straight years of 1,000 yards is not going to be 6'3". Even though this kid's young, he's 6'1". I mean, or excuse me, 21 and 6'3", not 6'1". I'm combining both of them numbers into one. But yeah, that would be. I just can't bet on it. I mean, that's one of the things that you have to take into consideration. And it's a real thing, and I don't think it's just a random fluke. There's legitimacy to it, that as a tight end in the positions that you play, the windows are so tight, and you're being thrown the ball in a lot of situations where you have to outgun and outreach and outstretch the defender. And if you can't do that consistently, you're not going to be a 1,000-yard guy. So you're going to get, hey, being a 700, 800, 900-yard pass catcher as a tight end, that's still really good. If you want to make sure that, if you want to have a chance at a guy that's going to have a 1,000-yard season, it's going to have to be that somebody's at least 6'4", 6'5", or taller. And, Breeding Stool's is much taller than that. Breeding Stool's tall. I think he's like 6'5", 6'6", maybe 6'7". I don't know. He's up there. Wiley is probably about 6'4". I think he's either about my height or maybe like a little bit taller than I am. So, you got a couple of guys there in that ballpark. Noah Gray, 6'3". Love Noah Gray. He's a good dude and everything like that, but he is probably your poster child 6'3" tight end. So is Sadiq going to be better than Noah Gray? The evidence would suggest that yes, he's going to be better than that, but you don't know. And like I said, you're not getting Travis Kelce, bless his heart. Everybody, thank you so much for the questions tonight. I appreciate you joining in. A lot of competition going on tonight, but I appreciate you all coming in and taking part in the conversation. I always have fun with all of you. I see Venezuela's leading 2-0, and Michael Garcia is at the bat. I know Salvi has a hit and a score, or scored a run tonight. Just add to the legacy for that for Salvi and his career. So I appreciate everybody. Have a great night. We will do this again next week, and Nick and I will be back with 41 is the mic sometime on Sunday, hopefully sooner than later. And we're getting ready to get into it for real. I mean, the draft is not that much farther away. So once we get to April, it starts getting real in a hurry. Everybody have a great week. We will talk to